Welcome along to the final weekend of the Premier League. It's the Matchbook football podcast. One last time this domestic league season, that is. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined pretty much all season by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. Mark, it's been a great year, to be fair. It's been a lot of good stuff, and the Premier League title race goes down to the final day. We'll get a bit of thoughts on the title race from you over the course of the show, but I want the stats on the final day because people always say there's loads of extra goals on the final day. Do the stats back that up?
Yeah, they definitely do. I think if you look past the last 10 seasons of the Premier League and you take match day 38, on average, there's about a 0.6 goals per game upturn in goal output compared to the previous 37 weeks. And if we think about this season alone, we've had a record number of goals scored in the Premier League. A lot of that's down to the extra injury time in both the first half and second half, but even still, it's a record-breaking year for goals, around about the 3.27 mark, I think it is off the top of my head. But if you add that sort of 0.6 goal per game increase on top of that, you can kind of understand and see why the market is basically favouring over 3.5 goals rather than 2.5 across almost every single fixture in the Premier League this weekend. But yeah, I mean, the sort of general rule is on match day 38, back goals and opposed cards, but you need to be a little bit more specific than that and kind of obviously home in on the games involving certain teams, certain referees, what's at stake, what's not at stake, who's on the beach and who's not, etc. and so on. So, yeah, I will always try and do some sort of mad acca at some point just because, but it's worth noting, I think the over 2.5 goals tenfold is only trading around sort of the 14 to 1 mark. You might get 20s at best, really, but it's never actually occurred on match day 38. So perhaps this is the year it does land. But yeah, I'll probably avoid that and sort of be a bit more specific in my approach.
Yeah, because as you said, the prices are already catching up with the final day, I guess, based in the Premier League, loads of goals this season. Adrian Clarke, final day of the season. We're still fighting for this title.
Of course we are. Yeah, Arsenal are in the mix. You wouldn't believe it, would you, if you listened to the commentators the other night? You know, the title's done. You know, they were crowning Manchester City, but they've got one more win to produce, you know, and of course they should beat West Ham at home. Of course they're massive favourites to do it, but no Premier League game is ever a complete gimme. And City have drawn more games this year than they have done, or this season rather, than they have done since I think 2016-17. So, you know, I give West Ham a fighting chance of snatching a draw at the Etihad. And if they do and Arsenal win, then there'll be egg on a few faces.
Yeah, not least the fact that Arsenal game is going to be on TNT Sports, suggesting they probably have the second pick based on previous years in the same TV contract. Sky always have the title race on the final day, so it is interesting if indeed they did go for Liverpool's game there, and if they're able to show the goals on Sky, because they've never been able to show the TNT goals during the final day. So yeah, interesting how that all sets up on Super Sunday, the final Super Sunday of the season. We're actually going to cover 6 games, but Mark and Adrian are going to sit out one in the marquee section. City, West Ham, Arsenal, Everton, Brentford, Newcastle, Brighton versus Manchester United, Palace versus Aston Villa, and Chelsea versus Bournemouth. Before we get going, hit that like button and subscribe completely for free to our YouTube channel. You can see the comments come in already. Much appreciated, and appreciate all the listeners and viewers throughout the season. And do check out the Matchbook betting exchange. We will invariably be best price on that odds checker grid. And if you do want a fun over 2.5, over 3.5 ACCAs on the final day of the Premier League season, using Mark's stats, you will invariably, of course, getting the best price on the multiples as well. One of the only exchanges you can do multiples. Let's get going. Manchester City versus West Ham. The title is still alive, not according to these odds. Man City 1.11, and you can currently get 20 grand on that on the Matchbook betting exchange. 25.0 West Ham. Wow. Draw is 14.5. Both teams to score, yes. Pretty much 50-50 in this market. 1.94 is yes. City are laying 2 3/4 goal start on the Asian handicap. And the goal line for this one, believe it or not, 4.5. The unders 169. So I'll let you go first, Adrian, and get you first on this. You mentioned the Sky coverage. It seemed that the title race is over. We've seen this just with Manchester City teams alone in previous years. QPR, West Ham, Aston Villa. It took them a while to get over the line in all 3 of those games.
Yeah, they've had some drama, haven't they, on the final day? And I'd love a little bit more drama. I wouldn't want it to be a procession for obvious reasons. So, yeah, let's hope for a little bit more drama. I just think that even though West Ham haven't defended at all well this season, they do have the manager in a way, and the style of play that could cause, and some individuals that could cause Manchester City problems. They went to Emirates, remember, and won 2-0, albeit, Arsenal were very fatigued at the time, and I mean, they absorbed so much pressure that day. But I've never seen a team defend their box as resiliently as West Ham did. So, have they got the wherewithal to replicate that? I think Moyes will have been a little bit upset by some of the coverage. And I think he will use it as a tool, as a fuel for his players, and say, look, no one thinks, have you seen the odds? Have you seen what people have been saying about how City have won it already? Well, that's disrespectful to you lot. Go out there and show them how disrespectful that is. So I think there will be a real determination to be professional, to shut up shop, as you have to do at the Etihad. But where I think West Ham differ from a lot of teams is that they've got incredible pace and directness and quality on the counter. Jared Bowen, for me, he's one of the best counter-attacking players, maybe not just in this division, but across Europe. I think he's absolutely tailor-made to hurt teams on the counter. Kudus is not too shabby in those kind of situations either. Paqueta is a very, very good ball winner. There's someone that can slot those through balls through if they do turn it over. And City have been caught with players forward with that high line. I can see him opening them up. People might say this is fanciful. This is, it's a pipe dream. But these are players that are top players, and they've done it against very, very good teams before. So it's, in my mind, there's no reason why they can't turn it on at the Etihad and deliver a performance. That said, City are obviously favourites for a reason, and my head says City will win this game. I just don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be a procession. Personally, I think that there'll be a bit of pride there from West Ham, especially in Moyes' last game. The last thing he wants to do is get battered, and I think there'll be a fierce determination to avoid that. So, yeah, I'm looking at City in under 4.5 as my pick here. West Ham have lost on their last 6 occasions at the Etihad. It's never gone over 3.5 in that spell. So they're a team that are used to going there and getting beat, but they're always relatively competitive games, quite tight games. Remember, by the way, they scored at Arsenal, they scored at Liverpool, they scored at Villa, they scored at Spurs, they scored at Newcastle. So I did look at City and both teams to score at 2.44, which I thought was interesting, but I've gone away from that because just in case it is the Alamo. But yeah, I just think clearly you go with City here. It doesn't feel like they're going to blow it. They're in fantastic form, but I think West Ham have the tools, have the drive, because it's Moyes' last game, to make life as awkward as possible. And I'm backing them to make City sweat for it. So City and under 4.5 for me.
Okay, yeah, never mind David Moyes. I want Adrian Clarke doing that West Ham team talk before the game, and you run through brick walls for you, Adrian, after that. Mark, entire different view. So take it away.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say Man City were nowhere near their best on Tuesday night at Tottenham. It could have gone a very different way had Ortega not made that save late on. Minutes later, you win the penalty. The Untitled initiative swings City's way, and it's just amazing how football can swing on those really small margins. We saw the World Cup final, for example, and I think there is parallels between the two, really. And I think we saw with Pep's reaction, actually, to the chance and the save, how big a moment it was in the title race. And the celebrations post-match as well, I think there was more out of relief, really, from a Man City perspective, that they got through that particular task, because I did think Spurs played pretty well, in fairness to them. But yeah, the pressure and expectation is on them. Will they wobble? Well, there's potential. 2 years ago at the Etihad, they trailed Villa 2-0 going into the final 20 minutes and had to score 3 late goals to secure the title. But I understand Adrian's points and respect all of them, in fairness. It's all a very good case, well made. But what I've seen from West Ham in the last 6 to 8 weeks would concern me. And it feels like this could be just a box tick exercise to get the season over and done with, really. We saw David Moyes get the applause and the adulation he deserved last week with the send-off at the London Stadium. West Ham are now guaranteed to finish in the top half of the table, which is a great achievement. But there's not a huge amount left to play for, in all honesty. You know, some players who are either looking forward to their holidays, trying to potentially avoid injury ahead of international duty. But you will have some who are keen to sort of make a final impression to try and get a call up this summer. But, you know, it's understandable if motivation levels dip. And I know I'm not a professional player, so I don't have that mindset. But I just think if I was going to Man City on the final day, I probably would be thinking about my holidays rather than trying to deny City the title. So the Arsenal performance and victory is an anomaly for West Ham this season on the road, especially at the big boys. 5 defeats and 7 trips to teams above them. They've conceded 3 goals or more in all 5 of those defeats. They actually own the 4th worst defence in the division outside of the bottom 3 away from home. Only Luton and Blades have conceded more goals. But the stat that really kind of caught my attention this week was the fact that West Ham have conceded 3 goals or more in 10 of 18 away days. So it's more often they've conceded at least 3 goals than not, really, away from home. That's a massive concern, especially with the way in which they've defended most recently. The last 4 away days, they've shipped 5-5, 1 and 4 goals, 15 in 4 games. Just astonishingly poor numbers for a top half team. Away from home, they're giving up 2.2 expected goals per game on average. Now you're travelling to a highly motivated City side. I think it could get ugly. And that's why I'm going to back Man City to win by any other correct score. Effectively, on the correct score market, you're backing City to win and score at least 4 goals, which comes in at 2.14. Obviously, quite a short price, but I think it's warranted, really, considering what's at stake here and West Ham's previous numbers. And yeah, I mean, I just look at the West Ham away games. Shipped 3 at Liverpool, 4 at Villa, 5 at Chelsea, 4 at Newcastle, 3 at Man United, 5 at Palace, 5 at Fulham, 3 at Brentford. You know, if those teams can score at least 3 or 4 against this side, then why can't Man City when, you know, they are, in theory, the best team in the league? So, yeah, I'm going to back Man City to win by any of the correct score. And I'm also going to back Man City to win and Erling Haaland to score at least twice, which comes in at 2.5. And, you know, I think he's shown in the last couple of weeks he is back to flying form and he's quite eager to propel City to what would be a historic 4th successive title.
Okay, yeah, some good cases laid out from both guys with different angles. Finding it tough to pick an actual selection out of the 3. I'll lean with Adrian just because I can see a game state where City might ease off with a couple of goals. So Manchester City and under 4.5 goals, 197. But yeah, proceed with caution there. Second game is Arsenal versus Everton. Again, mentioned this already. This is on TNT Sports. Similar prices-ish. Arsenal 119 to win at home. Everton 17.5. The draw is available at 9.0. Both teams to score. No, the slight favourite at 10-11 or 191 on Matchbook. The Asian handicap line sees Everton get a 2-goal head start at just above even money. The total here is 3.5. Favoured slightly. The under at 194. So yeah, Mark, we'll go back to you on this one. Again, there's no real incentive for Arsenal to win by margin. Is the case that they get a couple of goals and sort of ease off? But again, it's the final day of the season. They could potentially want to see the home fans out happy, particularly if the title race is long over by then.
Yeah, I'd kind of believe that both Arsenal, City and whoever else really would just try and keep their foot down. It's the final game of the season, so there's no real point to sort of ease off. You might as well give the fans something to cheer and enjoy. Arsenal weren't at the best at Old Trafford last week, but got the points and they have to be commended on what's been an exceptional season. They invested in key areas, some of which were criticised earlier on in the season, but they've certainly improved as an overall outfit. And look, as a neutral, they've been nowhere near as fun, perhaps, as last season, but it's been much more businesslike, and they've taken the next steps of progress and can be legitimate title contenders next season based off the evidence we have this year. Because if you look at the expected points and underlying metrics, Arsenal have been the best team in the Premier League this year. But they did look a little bit laboured at United, perhaps understandable, really. I think that was the 4th successive game they played the same starting 11. There's not been a huge amount of rotation throughout the season from Arteta, but they've had a decent week off now and should be ready to go for sort of one last push, really, at the Emirates. And it's difficult to oppose them, obviously. 22 wins from 25 against teams in 8th and below. Just brilliantly consistent. 14 wins from 18 at the Emirates, continuing their sort of recent theme of being very, very strong at home. And their 2024 form has just been outstanding, isn't it? 15 wins from 17, 11 clean sheets, and just 9 goals conceded in that 17-game sample. So, as I say, across the season, my numbers have them top of unexpected points and quite comfortably the best defensive team in the division. Shout out to Kai Havertz too, assisting Trossard last week. Since moving into that centre-forward role in February, had 13 goal involvements, 7 goals, 6 assists in just 10 games. Really, really good stuff. And he didn't do too much else at Old Trafford, but there was no need to really, because Saliba and Gabriel were on it really, weren't they? And you don't really need much else when those boys are playing at the top of their game. So, I fully expect Arsenal to finish strongly, keep City honest, really. And whilst Everton are awkward opponents, they have only taken 1 point away from trips to the top 8. They've only scored 2 goals in that 7-game sample away from Goodison Park, and they are the second lowest scoring side in the division. Even during the upturn recently, 1 defeat in 8, their goal output reads 1-1, 0, 2-2, 1-1-1. So they've also been nilled in 7 of their 18 away games. So the obvious bet for me here, the obvious bet isn't always the best bet, but I thought the value was here to back Arsenal to win and both teams to score no at an odds against price. Just because of that defensive record for Arsenal, and Everton aren't exactly flush with goals at the best of times. And this Arsenal side have allowed just 0.63 expected goals over their last 16 Premier League games. They've actually won 0 in 6 of the last 8 as well. So to get an odds against offering in a must-win game against a team with little to play for, who do struggle to create opportunities and put them away, I thought that was fair enough.
Okay, yeah. And Adrian, you agree?
I do, yeah. I think, for all the reasons outlined, I mean, Arsenal are the clean sheet kings, aren't they, of the Premier League? So, and often a lot of the shutouts have been on the road, but 3 of the last 4 home games have seen Arsenal win 0. So, it's something that they're doing a little bit more often at the moment. Yeah, look, Everton's record away to the top 8 isn't good, is it? 1 point in 8, blanked at City, Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea, and Manchester United. So, they're not good finishes. They're the worst finishers, aren't they, in the division? Worst conversion rate, Everton, by quite some distance, actually. So, that's something they definitely need to remedy moving forwards. But their best performances, best efforts have almost always been at Goodison Park of late, rather than on the road. And look, Arsenal at home in the final day of the season normally goes all right. So look, no team has actually won. Oh, someone's trying to phone me. No one's won more on the final day of the season than Arsenal. They've got a 71% win rate in the Premier League on the final day. They've won 12 in a row on the final day as well. And the last few seasons they've been at home and they've won handsomely. So I expect Arsenal to get the job done, and hoping for a miracle from the Etihad. But even if that doesn't happen, I think there'll be a great mood at Emirates Stadium, a mood of celebration, just to acknowledge what's been an exceptional season, a season that's worthy of them being crowned champions, even if they don't end up picking up those winners' medals. They have played outstandingly well, and that there's no need at all for recriminations, for what ifs. It's just a case of, look, you've been beaten by the stronger team, but I don't think Arsenal could have done any more in this title race. So I'm excited, looking forward to it. I feel a bit under the weather at the moment. I've been under the weather this week. Got to get myself fully fit for the weekend.
Match fit.
And exactly. I'm struggling a little bit, but hopefully it'll be all right for Sunday. And
we need you, Adrian. We need you up there. We need you out there, Adrian.
We can enjoy a good day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Firstly, thanks to all Liverpool fans. I'd be friends with a lot of them, and they reached out with genuine sincerity about condolences on potentially the title going to City. They've been there before, and I genuinely thought it was quite lovely, considering they've obviously even got more points and lost to City in heartbreaking circumstances. So I felt we were all sort of in this together. And my second point, Adrian, is we won't be showing off the new home kit for next season, because apparently, from what I've been reading, that when the title's on the line, or potentially the title's on the line, you can't wear your new home jersey. That's the talk. So that's how serious we're getting now as a football club, that we can't showcase the new jersey.
I think that's right and proper. It rankled with me when Arsenal won the FA Cup behind closed doors in COVID. wearing a new kit. So, you know, the kit that they wore en route to the final got binned off for the final, and it didn't sit right with me. And I think it would be exactly the same here with Arsenal. So yeah, no, I think let's wear the kit that's got us to this point and get the job done, and hope for West Ham to produce the performance of a lifetime. Let's this is not done. It is not done. I know that they're overwhelming favourites, but it's not done. They've got to go out there and win it.
We're still fighting for this title. Let's move on. Brentford versus Newcastle United. Take a look at the betting that we currently have on Matchbook.com. Brentford 3.05 underdogs to Newcastle, who are 2.32 favourites on the road. The draw is 4.0. Both teams to score. Yes, we've seen a common theme all season with low prices here. 142. The Asian handicap line, Brentford getting a quarter goal head start. The goal line 3.5. Adrian, back to you. Newcastle been quietly impressive over the last couple of months. I thought they were okay going forward away to Manchester United yesterday defensively, and I think it's been a theme of the last few weeks. They just probably haven't been good enough. So it suggests that they have the capabilities of beating Brentford on the road.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, they've been on a good run, Newcastle. I don't think it's been poor at all. And even the game at Manchester United, they well outperformed Manchester United on the XG, missed some gilt-edged opportunities that they really shouldn't have missed. And you saw a bad mistake from Kieran Trippier for the first as well. Some of the defending was a little bit shoddy, I've got to say. Look, they've let slip the advantage, haven't they? Chelsea now absolutely in pole position. Could even still fifth, which is just mad, really. But it does feel like they'll get sixth, Chelsea, which means that Newcastle have got to fend off Man United to get seventh, which I think will probably put them in the Conference League if United don't win the FA Cup, of course. So, a bit of motivation here. The reason I've gone for my pick, which is Newcastle or the draw, double chance, and both teams to score at 1.83, is Brentford's record at home to teams above them this season is shocking. They've beaten one team above them at their own stadium all season. Their record reads 1-1, drawn 7, lost 8. The only teams they've beaten in front of their own fans, apart from that sole victory, have been the teams beneath them in the table, the teams that have been in the relegation battle. So you can't trust Brentford at home, I'm afraid. Obviously, they're not massively motivated. What they do have at the moment is strikers that are kind of in form. Vissa and Mbeumo, look lively at times last weekend. Obviously, Tony's a little bit out of sorts, but I was impressed with the goals. And obviously, recently that game at Luton, I remember they cut loose a little bit, those two guys. So they do carry a threat, and they do often score at the GTEC. 72%, which is very, very high. 72% of their home games, Brentford, do end with both teams to score. And for Newcastle on the road, 61% of the time, both teams score in lands. So that's what I'm going to pair it with. I don't think it's going to escalate as such. The Bees have sort of been involved in a few tight games. 8 of their last 10 games have gone under 4.5. 5 of their last 8 games, Brentford, have gone under 2.5. So I don't expect it to be a crazy game, but I do think that Newcastle will get at least a point. Whether that's enough or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think they'll either draw or win this game, and I could see both teams scoring. Obviously, with the way Newcastle had defended the other night, but also with the Newcastle's attack. Anthony Gordon has had a brilliant season, and he was great the other night. Isak as well. Had a couple of off games. Wouldn't surprise me if he finished the season with a bang. And that's just a couple of the guys. Bruno's been in the goals. Longstaff's been in the goals. Harvey Barnes is always worth, making an impact. So look, I'm going to go with Newcastle double chance and both teams to score.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with them last few weeks. Bodes well for next season if they hold on to players like Isak, who, given financial fair play, might be on the shopping list on the way out. Mark, interesting stats there from Adrian on Brentford, because they've made their name under Thomas Frank against the top teams, and it hasn't seemed to happen for them this season.
No, excuse me, no, but and not many things did go right for Brentford this season. You think back to the suspension to Ivan Toney, the long injury list, which I know Newcastle have had to deal with too. But excuse me, more recently, I think we've started to see the best side of Brentford. The G-Tech, I can remember them holding Chelsea to a 2-2 draw and really sort of pummeling them in that second half and probably deserving more. Absolutely wiped the floor of Man United, but were unable to win that game. Held Brighton when we're probably the better side as well. So there's got kind of 3 encouraging performances at home against big boys or top half teams, shall we say, in the last couple of months, really. And I have seen an element of fortitude about them in recent weeks, actually, which I think had been missing through the winter. Obviously, it helps when you've got frontline players coming back from injury, but it's just 1 defeat in 8 now. And even before that run, they competed, I thought, very well when they went to Arsenal. And also that Chelsea game in particular stands out. And just last week, winning away at Bournemouth, that's no easy feat at all. Only 2 teams outside the current top 5 have managed it this season. Wolves back in October, and now Brentford. And Wolves were playing against 10 men for most of the second half that day. So, Brentford's win at Bournemouth could have been more convincing if VAR had given them a blatant penalty as well. So I think they are sort of finishing the season relatively well compared to their season so far. And I do think motivation has been factored in a little bit too much here in Newcastle's favour. This feels like a tough game to end the campaign if you're looking for a victory. And, I have been impressed in parts with them, but also I've been underwhelmed by them as well in recent weeks. Losing to United at Old Trafford, kind of unforgivable in their current state. Yes, they played reasonably well for most part, but to concede 3 goals. And it just kind of coincides with a lot of what they've been doing away from home, actually. I go back to the Burnley game, and I don't just pick this game out because I opposed Newcastle on the day and I was made to look very, very silly by that final score and the way the match panned out. But watch the first 15, 20 minutes of that game. Burnley had them right under pressure, under the pump. And if that first goal goes in for Burnley, it could have been a very different game. Newcastle score it against the balance of play and then run out comfortable winners. But that was only their 5th away win all season. 3 of them have been against the bottom 4. Now, Brentford are obviously in the bottom 5, so perhaps this should be well within Newcastle's range. But yeah, I'm just not willing to back or chance a team at 2.3 or around that price. They won just 5 away games all season, especially against the likes of Brentford, who seem to be finding their feet now after what's been a pretty treacherous campaign. But I guess with Thomas Frank and Brentford as a club, I've always got an element of trust in that they're capable of sort of turning up and putting on a bit of a show, really. So I'm backing Brentford double chance and over 0.5 goals at 1.8. If the game ends 1-1, we'll both be happy.
Yeah, I was going to say 1-1 is the perfect happy medium there. I am leaning towards Adrian's selection, Newcastle double chance, and both teams to score 183. Marks and all the bets put up here are available and will be available on insights.matchbook.com. Brighton versus Manchester United, final game we're going to preview in full. Brighton 2.18, bit of money this morning. Manchester United 3.15. The draw is 4.3. Wait for this both teams to score price 1.36. The Asian handicap line, United get a quarter goal head start at even money. 3.5's the total here. Adrian, we'll go to you first on this one. Okay. We touched on the game against Newcastle. This game screams goals to me anyway. Final day of the season, could get out of hand.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know so much because the reason I'm hesitant to say that is Brighton. Brighton have not been in the goals for ages. They've scored 1 or less in all of their last 12 games. So they've not scored 2 for 12 games. So, they're not exactly firing on all cylinders. It's been a really sort of dull end to the campaign for Roberto De Zerbi's side. But we know what they're capable of. They've had a couple of narrow 1-0 wins. They beat Villa recently, where they shut out Villa, really. Villa didn't produce much at all. So they are capable, aren't they, of competing against anyone. And I think their style of play, the way they play out from the back and the way that they manoeuvre it through the thirds, could be a nightmare for what is a little bit of this dishevelled Manchester United side that doesn't have the greatest organisation, certainly positionally at the moment. The structure of the team is still all over the place. Had Arsenal not been as sort of leggy and nervous, I think Arsenal could have cut loose. Newcastle did at times, had over 20 shots. So I think that Brighton can definitely carve open more opportunities, and this might be the game where they do score more than one goal. I can see them scoring 2. Manchester United. I don't know what to make of Manchester United. I just don't. It's they're awful at most things at the minute, but the talent gets them through, doesn't it? And Bruno and Garnacho and Ahmad the other night, did very, very well. Højlund comes off the bench and shines. So that they've always got a puncher's chance. I'm going to side with Brighton, so I'm going to go with the Brighton double chance. That means the Brighton or the draw. And I'm going to pair it with under 4.5, which will go against the grain for you, Daniel. I'll say that because all of Brighton's last 12 games have gone under 4.5. 11 of their last 12 have gone under 3.5. And remember, this is a game that Man United might not have that much of the ball in. I think that Brighton might control the tempo. I don't know how wild they'll allow it to get. United aren't much of a pressing team, are they? So they might have to rely a little bit on counter-attacks here. Manchester United, who, by the way, don't have an away clean sheet since Anfield, which was December the 17th, when they sort of somehow escaped with a goalless draw. Since then, no shutouts on the road. So I think they're almost certainly likely to concede, maybe twice. And could I see United, banging in 3? Not really. Is my honest assessment. I think Brighton are more than good enough to get a result here and to deny a pretty poor Manchester United team a place in Europe next season. Remember, they've got the FA Cup final on their mind as well. So I'm going to go with Brighton draw double chance and unders 2.06.
Yep, let's lock it in. Mark, watching United the last few weeks, it feels teams like they come into the game with this, conceding loads of shots, loads of goals, and therefore the game becomes exciting no matter what team they're playing, which is my sort of thinking that maybe we might see Brighton get back into their old habits and start scoring a few goals again.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm probably more on Adrian's line of thinking here than seeing this game escalate, but I wouldn't want to oppose goals, not just because it's Man United, but match week 38. Put it all into the mix, really. It's not really a game in which I do want to sort of oppose goals. But on Brighton, I've been quite critical of them in this calendar year. But I do think you have to make allowances for them, actually. Playing in Europe for the first time ever, losing key players last summer, all the injuries. We have such high expectations that when they fall below them, you do feel a little bit shortchanged, a bit disappointed. But the spark did seem to have go out of Brighton for a while this calendar year. Their attacking output, which was normally their sort of bread and butter of what made Brighton special in the first place, had gone missing, and it wasn't particularly fun to watch Brighton. But they were the must-watch team for the previous seasons in the Premier League. But credit to them, they're sort of safely ensconced in mid-table. They'll be posting another top half finish, which is very, very impressive considering their budget. Off the field, there always is that sense of kind of uncertainty around De Zerbi and his future, but sort of all the right noises being made that he's going to be backed appropriately in the summer, and he's happy. So I actually think they've been all right the last fortnight or so. Deservedly beat Villa in a bit of a nothing game. Picked up a good point at Newcastle last week. Only really played in the second half against Chelsea in midweek, but Chelsea are much further on in their progress than Man United are right now. And United, I think there's very, very legitimate claims to be said. This is the worst United side in the Premier League era, or at least in my lifetime, at least. Sort of bored kind of trotting out all the numbers based around them this season because, whether it's the loss rate, the goals conceded, the shots conceded, it's incredibly hard not to criticise them and sort of stick the boot into what's been a dreadful campaign. And Adrian's right, there's a cup final next week, and Erik ten Hag was sort of talking to the supporters on the pitch at Old Trafford and sort of highlighting how his players were so motivated to do something in that cup final. So perhaps this isn't their priority. Just I think I've done enough on United in the last few weeks to know.
Yeah, you don't have to keep going.
Brighton have won the last 3 head-to-heads. If you exclude results against Arsenal and City, who have been far and away the best teams in the division this year, Brighton have lost just once at the Amex all season, which is very, very impressive. So happy to back them at 2.2 or around that price to beat United at home. I think that's absolutely fair. The market's basically saying Brighton are very, very, very narrowly the better of the two teams. based on balance of play, Brighton are the better team. Man United just have better individuals, and as Adrian says, it's getting them by at the minute. But I think Brighton are quite streetwise and should be capable of kind of getting a couple of goals against them. So, they've been criticised of being toothless this season. Well, there's no better team to play if you're toothless right now than Man United.
Okay, yeah, gone off the goals a bit based on what the lads said there. Brighton to win. Let's keep it simple here and go for Mark's selection. 2.2 currently on Matchbook Bet and Exchange. One game each now to fill the Premier League void. We won't have European selections this week. Crystal Palace versus Villa. Mark, just the match odds are Crystal Palace 192, Villa 3.9, draw 4.5. Villa obviously celebrated. I have to say, some great videos. Unai Emery both celebrating at home and saying up the Villa. He seems, because he doesn't really like the limelight. I used to always didn't like this when he was Arsenal manager. He would just go down the tunnel straight away. He sort of leaves it to the players. So it's great to see him celebrated. And is there any of that angles, just based on the fact they've already got 4 places secure away to Palace, this Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. That has to be a consideration. And look, it was Tuesday night. They're having their sort of players' end of season dinner when the news came through that Spurs had lost, and therefore top 4 was secured for Aston Villa, which is an extraordinary achievement when you consider the mess that he inherited back in October 2022 to now be playing Champions League football next season. They absolutely have earned their beers, but there should be enough recovery time if you're on it on Tuesday night to play on Saturday afternoon. But it is a consideration, but more so the consideration for me in opposing Aston Villa here is just Villa's performances recently. Yes, they were able to stage that late fight back against Liverpool, but I think it's easy to get yourself up for the last home game of the season against a big team. I'm more concerned by the sort of a lack of legs in the home and away legs against Olympiacos and in recent Premier League matches as well. And more so based on John McGinn's comments after the Monday night match against Liverpool, when he basically said that so many players are out there on their feet, so many players are playing with injuries. And he even said, and I quote this, "Some of us are half men out there." I'm not really sure what that means, but it kind of goes
half
to show
half the man they used to be. Is that what he's trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, it's they're each their absolute sort of physical limits at the minute. And I think if you're going into match day 38 with a trip to Palace the way they're playing right now, you probably don't fancy it, to be honest, especially if you've got a little bit of a hangover from midweek. So, Palace have been going great guns. Glasner's attracting interest from Bayern Munich. You look at their recent games, 6 games, unbeaten, 5 wins, annihilating West Ham and Man United, beating up Newcastle, producing a really good effort at Wolves last week too. We talk about the mesmeric front three of Elise, Eze, Mateta. I think they will be eager to sign off in style at Selhurst Park. So the money's come for Palace since Tuesday night, which is understandable really, but I still think there's ways to engineer a strong Palace play here. So I'm just going to back Palace to win and over 1.5 goals at 2.1. Just need Palace to score at least twice to win the game to get paid, and that's good enough for me.
Geez, Palace are a great price, aren't they? 192. I wanted enhanced there, 208 with Mark and over 1.5 goals. Adrian, match you with something on the line here. Chelsea versus Bournemouth. I think this is set up to be a great game, a lot of goals, but take it away.
Yeah, I do. I think it should be exciting. Look, Chelsea are flying. Obviously, they lost at Arsenal, which was a bad performance. But they've aside from that, they haven't been beaten since the 4th of February. 4 wins on the spin, and get this, 12 of their last 14 matches have gone over 2.5 goals. But Chelsea have scored 2 or more in 11 of their last 12 matches. The only one that they haven't scored at least 2 in was the defeat to Arsenal. So, they're a team that are used to scoring multiple goals at the moment. They're definitely flying confidence-wise. Palmer, Jackson, and Kunku being back. What a boost that is. The strange thing is, this is all being done without Enzo, isn't it? Enzo Fernandez is out, and
which is a topic of conversation with Chelsea fans, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few I know that are thinking, well, maybe we should try and get some of our money back. But yeah, look, they're finishing the season like a train. Bournemouth are a very exciting side, we know that, and they might be worth a goal here. But I think that Chelsea can outscore most teams at the moment. Attack is very much the best form of defence for them. They don't have a good defence. We know that. I think if you get this Chelsea back four, you're in business. But of late, they've been very, very assertive in the way that they've played. Bournemouth don't have a great record away to the big clubs. They've lost and conceded at at least 3 to all of the top 5, and obviously Chelsea are 6. So conceded at least 3 in all of those games, albeit some of them were early on in the season, but just one clean sheet away to a top half club this season, and that was in that 3-0 win against Manchester United. So look, Chelsea have won. Like I say, they've been winning at the Bridge. It's no longer a bogey stadium for them, and I expect them. They haven't come this far to then screw it up on the last day, in my opinion. So going with Chelsea to win, I'm going to pair it with a conservative over 2.5 goals, which comes out just shy of 1.8. But if you want to go bolder and go down the over 3.5 route, as is, Mark's outlined the case for a lot of the games going over 3.5, then that'll take you above even money. So Chelsea and overs for me.
Okay, Chelsea over 2.5 goals, 178. Dom Solanke still in the mix, Mark, for that 4th place. He is tied 4th currently on 19 goals with Ollie Watkins, but the fear is even if he outscores Ollie Watkins, you've got Mo Salah on 18 goals just behind him, and I think he's due a big haul. So
Klopp's last game at Anfield, I'm expecting Liverpool to go all out to sort of sign him off in style, which is a big concern. I think 75% or so of Salah's goals have come at Anfield this season, so you'd be very surprised if he didn't get on the score sheet. And also you got Son 2 goals behind, and Spurs are away at Sheffield United in the way in which Blades are defending at the minute. It could be a cricket score there as well. So Solanke's going to probably have to score at Stamford Bridge to stay within a sort of a puncher's chance of the place money. But to be honest, I've been sort of throwing the slip in the bin, picking it back out, throwing it back in the bin, taking it back out. It's been that kind of season so far. But it's given us a good run for our money to be in matchday 38 and still have a chance of getting some cash. Is a successful season when you're backing a long shot like that.
Love it.
Yeah, put up on the Matchbook.
I was going to say, Daniel, could it be Salah's last game at Anfield?
Could be. I know Van Dijk's committed his future, and the talk is Salah will commit his future, but there's nothing concrete yet.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me.
If the Saudis come in with a big deal, then I would accept it from a Liverpool perspective.
He has not looked the same player this season. He just hasn't. And time catches up with everyone, and there might be other factors there, but maybe his head hasn't been fully in the game. Not sure, but it's not been the same Mo Salah this time around. And if the Saudis come in with a silly bid, I think Liverpool would be absolutely crazy. It'd be crackers to turn it down.
Yeah, definitely post African Cup of Nations, he hasn't been the same player. But look, you've seen those compilations of him creating all the chances for the lads, and nobody finishes them. So if you had those few assists, maybe he hasn't been as bad as we think. Who knows on that front? EFL time, Adrian. Delighted we've got a pick in here on the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to be at the game. Bolton against Oxford,
Brilliant.
The League One playoff final. Yeah, looking forward to it. Bolton are the favourites. Bolton finished 10 points ahead of Oxford in the regular season. Oxford snuck in on the last day, but they saw off Peterborough in the semi-finals at the second leg, and they defended well. Oxford didn't offer a great deal, I've got to say, going forward. You've got Josh Murphy, rather, Jacob's brother, who's there, and he's a very lively winger. And they've got some good attacking players, Oxford, but really the reason they've made it to Wembley is based on their defence. They've conceded 5 goals in their last 10 matches, including those two playoff semi-finals. So they're very well organised at the moment, Oxford. They keep their back four in play. It's kind of like anti-modern football, where fullbacks have to fly forward. Des Buckingham's actually gone the opposite way. He said, no, I'm going to keep a back four in place, and the rest of you go out there and score the goals. Leave the wingers to it. He's got 2 attacking midfielders in the midfield 3. Cameron Brannigan, who's really not a holding midfielder, is their holding midfielder. So they've got a really rock solid back four. But will they be able to handle Bolton, who are a top side, in my opinion? They could easily have finished in the top 2. Bolton Wanderers. They beat Oxford 5-0 not so long ago. It's only a month or 2 back. I think that was a big turning point for Oxford. After they took that battering, they went on a great run. But that will give them great confidence. You've got Dion Charles, James Collins up front, a bit of a handful. You've got options to come off the bench as well for them. And they've been at Wembley before in recent times. Bolton, last year's EFL Trophy, they smashed Plymouth by 4-0. So a lot of the players are still there. So I think they'll arrive at Wembley with, feeling quite good about themselves. Bolton backing themselves. They're 1.97 favourites, but for me that's a little bit too small. But because finals are so tight and because Oxford are so resolute defensively, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring final. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair, as they often are. But hand on heart, I do think that Bolton have the edge. I think they've got a little bit more quality, slightly the better team, and they're just a bit further down in their development. I mean, if Oxford got promoted to the Championship, a lot of work would need to be done. But for Bolton, it's not quite the same story. So I think they'll get the job done. I'm going to go with Bolton and under 3.5. It's a lovely little jump from 1.97 to 2.6. I mean, not many finals go 4 or more goals at Wembley in the playoffs. So that's my thinking.
Yeah, seems a big jump. All right. Yeah, 2.6. We'll lock that in. Move on to long shots time here, and they've done very well all season. We are up or playing with a small bit of profitable money, Marcus. We will be profit by the end of the season. I really liked Palace and your case for Crystal Palace. Eze, Mateta have been unbelievable, but just as good, if not even the best of the three, I think, Michael Elise recently.
Yes, so I'm just going to partner Michael Elise to score at any time and Crystal Palace to win for a 4-1 shot, which really does appeal to me. I've already made the case for Palace, already made the case for Palace to score a couple of goals, and the reason why I want to be against Villa. But in terms of Elise, he's actually now scored in 9 of his last 18 Premier League appearances this season. So, scoring in half of those fixtures, including 4 of his last 6 at Selhurst Park. He just looks massively overpriced to get on the score sheet again. If you look at the sort of anytime goal scorer lists in this particular fixture, Elise is well down. I'm not really sure why, because his strike rates have been so good. He deserves a lot more respect than he's getting from the market. So I think he's around 2-1 just to score in the game. But partnering him with a Palace win gets you right up to 4-1. So that's my long shot.
Yeah, really like it. Producer Ryan, Liverpool fan, said he's the perfect Mo Salah replacement. So my one wish for Palace, one wish is Palace, they keep that front three for next season, and Warthor and all the others, and just have a proper go. They're gone, Mark.
I think Palace need to sell Eze for at least 80 million because we've got a lovely juicy sell-on clause. So
it's always there's always an agenda somewhere, isn't there?
If we could move Eze on somewhere else this summer, that would be quite nice.
No, fingers crossed they'll keep it 3. I doubt he'd have refused the Bayern Munich manager job if one of those players to be sold in the summer. That'll be my own view. Long shot time, Adrian. Dare to dream.
Yeah, that's my thinking. Come on, let's have it. Come on, you Irons.
Go on, you Irons.
You can get 14.5 on the draw because Arsenal would need to win against Everton. But look, let's dream of that scenario where the team that is top at the start of the day gets overthrown, because City, celebrated pretty wildly, very confident celebrations. All of the pundits are out there saying it's done. There's no way they're getting beat on the last day. Well, look, they don't have to get beat. It could be a draw. And a draw with Arsenal winning is enough to see the Gunners win the league. So I'm just going to put it out there that if you want to have a little bit of fun, 14.5 on the draw is there for you. It's a little carrot, just to have a little bit of fun with. I've already said it with Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta, Ward-Prowse spanking one in from 30 yards. The Souček on the volley last weekend. Can he find another one? Teams that cause City problems have pace. You've got to have a threat on the counter to stand any chance at the Etihad, and West Ham have it. No one's scored more goals from fast breaks than West Ham this season. If you look at the goals City have conceded, and there aren't that many at the Etihad, then a lot of them do come from counters. So really what West Ham need to do here is replicate their own sort of defensive resilient performance, which is going to be hard at the Etihad, but they did it at Emirates. Can they do it at the Etihad? And then they've got to offer that threat on the counter. And if they can, they might nick a goal. If they nick a goal, they might nick a draw. So, look, City don't like facing the Londoners. Have you noticed that this season? They've drawn at home to Arsenal. They've drawn at home to Spurs. They've drawn at home to Chelsea. They've drawn at home to Crystal Palace. Might they just draw at home to United? I'm still dreaming of it.
Yeah, Erling Haaland in Kurt Zuma's pocket this Sunday. Who knows?
That doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't sound right now. That didn't make the case. That didn't make the case. No,
you just
Mark
undone
O'Haire.
it there.
Yeah, no, the more I said that, it's not going to happen, is it? Mark O'Haire, your best bet of the whole weekend is?
I'll be honest, I found it really difficult to have a real best bet, sort of nap, if you like. But I have chosen Man City by any of the correct score. Take you back to the reverse game at London Stadium. City won it 3-1. They won the shot count 29-6. They created close to 3.7 expected goals on that particular occasion. Now they're hosting West Ham in a must-win game. Hammer's got nothing left to play for. As I said, they've conceded 3 goals, 10 of their 18 away games, at least 3 goals, quite often more than that too. So, if they're doing that regularly, I don't think there's a worse ground to go to really for West Ham right now. I expect City to score at least 2, probably 3, and that gives us a puncher's chance of getting 4 or more. I don't discount West Ham getting on the score sheet at all, but I think City win this comfortably.
Okay, yeah, it's a cool correct score market option. Any other score, essentially backing the team to score 4 goals, as Mark alluded to there, and it's an exchange exclusive market as well. So well worth checking out, not just for City game, but other games where you feel a team might win a game by scoring goals, but maybe concede a couple. Adrian, best bet?
Yeah, I've gone with my heart for the long shot. And I'm sticking with my heart for the best bet, and that's Arsenal to win.
Good man.
And both teams to score. No, Arsenal are the clean sheet kings in the Premier League. We know that. David Raya, the Golden Glove winner. 3 of the last 4 at Emirates Stadium have been wins to 0. And Everton blanked at City, blanked at Liverpool, blanked at Villa, blanked at Chelsea, blanked at Manchester United. We know that they've got issues in terms of their finishing. They could make it tight. We know that they defend well. I mean, it's a crazy stat, isn't it? They've conceded 26, right, in open play in the entire season. 26 goals in open play they've conceded all season. It's the same as Manchester City. It's bonkers. It's only Liverpool and Arsenal that have conceded fewer in open play than Everton and City who are together. It's just, they have to be respected in terms of the way that they can hold you at bay. But most of that work is done at Goodison rather than on the road, where they've been, opened up fairly comfortably by the better teams in the division this season. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Arsenal to win 2-0. And will it be enough? Who knows? But it should be fun. It should be a fun afternoon, whatever happens.
Maybe, yeah. It's great the guys are just disagreeing for the final podcast of the season. Refreshing, proper order. Adrian, it's been an emotional domestic season. You've enjoyed it, being on the podcast?
Oh, what a season. Yeah, I've loved it. I've loved the long shots. They've been great. You've been a really good feeling when you sort of nail one of those. Mixed bag as always. But I think we've probably had more wins than defeats. And in general, what a season it's been. The record number of goals in the Premier League. Amazing EFL season, across all the divisions, but particularly the Championship, which is brilliant. And the title race goes down to the last day. So yeah, for me, it's been one of the most enjoyable seasons I can remember in many, many years. So I just hope it's got a happy ending. I don't think it will, but I'm still hoping.
We're still fighting for this title. Mark, you've enjoyed it?
Yeah, of course. It's a bit of a shame we didn't have a 3-way title race, as it looked like we could do up until a couple of weeks back. It also looked like the Premier League relegation race would still be open, but isn't the case. But for the most part, it's been a great season. I think we've read most of the Premier League matches pretty well between us. Results perhaps have been a little bit erratic at times, but I think in terms of sort of setting the scene, I think we've done a pretty good job in that sense. And looking forward to next season. I think I saw a quote of Arsenal around 9-1 to win the title next year, and that's interesting me already, in all honesty.
No way.
You guys would know more about them perhaps investing again this summer. But you think about the potential repercussions of Man City's, 100 and something odd charges coming their way.
115.
They're not going to get away scot-free. They're not going to get away scot-free. So there could be a points penalty coming City's way at some point in the next year or two. So you have to look at alternatives. And if Liverpool are going to go through a potentially transitional period with Klopp leaving, there's going to be a door open for someone to challenge City. And at the moment, Arsenal do look like the most worthy and legitimate challengers. So, yeah, already looking forward to next season, even though we haven't seen off match day 38.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because I believe that the charges will be answered as soon as, I think the Premier League are keen to get a move on with it. It'd be really interesting to see what happens with Pep Guardiola as well. So, I don't know how many more years he's going to be there. So we'll have to wait and see. But that 9-1 on Arsenal for next year's title, that's very.
We'll be taking that offline.
They won't be far off it. Let me tell you. I don't see Arsenal going backwards next season. Put it that way.
Yeah. Hopefully,
the age profile of the squad is close to perfect as well. There's no one over the hill. Was there a lot of players in that first 11 who should only get better with another year under their belt. So, provided the Euros don't burn a lot of them out, I expect them to be up there again next year.
Cool. Keep an eye on our social channels. We'll have a couple of final podcasts, the likes of the Conference League, right up to the Champions League, FA Cup, Europa League as well. We'll fit them in as best we can. And yes, we will be back for Euro 2024. Really excited for this. Even looking at the markets, already a bit of activity on the Matchbook betting exchange. People trying to get ahead of market moves. Do check out our markets there, but also our content will be up. And we will be having regular podcasts throughout the tournament with Mark and Adrian. So my thanks to the guys throughout the season, but more importantly, thanks to the viewers and listeners. Insights.matchbook.com as always for a full recap of the guys' bets. Bye-bye.